Hello everyone and welcome. In this video I'll be reviewing the popular fantasy action movie Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves, made in 2023 and directed by John Francis Daley along with Jonathan Goldstein. Now John Francis Daley is best known for his portrayal of Sam Weir on Freaks and Geeks, which if you have not seen, I implore you to watch it. The show's great, very nostalgic to a certain decade. I don't know exactly which decade it was, but very good stuff, just a very fun watch. Jonathan Goldstein is not known for any acting credits, as he's mainly a writer and director, and the duo worked together on many projects, most notably Horrible Bosses franchise and co-writing Spider-Man Homecoming, among many other things. The story was written by Chris McKay, who is a very talented writer known for his work on Moral Oral, which is a fantastic show that I recommend you watch immediately. It's a very real and impactful show. Some sissies might say the show is depressing, but that's what makes it so real. It's what makes it so raw. I implore you to watch Moral Oral whenever you can. He's also known for the Lego Batman movie, among other things. The story was also written by Michael Giglio, who had little information available on him. I do apologize for mispronouncing his name or any other names in the video. Cinematography was helmed by Barry Peterson, edited by Dan Lebenthal, and music by Lauren Balfe, all of which did a very fantastic job. More on that later. The production companies responsible for this film include Entertainment One and Paramount Pictures, who also distributed the film. The film has a runtime of around 134 minutes and had a budget of $150 million. Now, I tried doing some research on box office profits, but was not able to find any definite answers. As far as I can find, the film had only made a few $1,000,000, which is quite sad since the film is really nice. Now, I'm going to go over the cast before going over the plot, then reviewing certain aspects of the film like cinematography, editing, etc., and then giving it an overall review. So the film stars Chrispine as Edgin Darvis, Michelle Rodriguez as Holga Kilgore, Justice Smith as Simon Armar, Sophia Lillis as Doric, Hugh Grant as Forge Fitzwilliam, and Daisy Head as Sophina, all of which did a decent job acting. Not bad, but not spectacular either. If I were to choose who delivered the best performances in the film, I would say, personally, Hugh Grant and Michelle Rodriguez, and, well, that's about it. Everyone did a decent job. I'm going to go ahead and say Hugh Grant did a really good job playing a villain. He didn't really tell any jokes, but his mannerisms and facial expressions were a bit humorous, and, he was very snarky and mean in a way, and he was really someone you felt angered at, and you really wanted to see, be brought to justice. Michelle Rodriguez, on the other hand, did a pretty good job. She's like, like typecast to be a very strong woman, a warrior character, and so she does a pretty good job of that. There are some emotional scenes near the end, which I found very nice, and that's pretty much it for the acting. Everyone did a decent job. Okay, so moving on to the plot, the film entails Chrispine's character as a noble hero turned thief who looks for rare treasure, but during this heist, he and his companion Holga get caught and are forced to escape prison, only to find that their accomplice betrayed them and they need to go back for him for what he did. That's about as far as the plot I want to give away without giving any spoilers. The film came out recently, so I'll refrain from any spoilers, and if I do, I will let you know beforehand with a warning. Cinematography is great, good shots all around to help establish setting and tone. Editing is even better, with good transitions and special effects to match. I heard there were some good practical effects made for the film, which is always welcome to see. The musical score was also done very well. All the music was done to highlight emotions as well as comedic elements, etc. Just overall really good. So how does the film stack up overall? Well, pretty good. General audiences and professional critics such as myself rate the film quite highly. For instance, Rotten Tomatoes gives a score of 89%, Common Sense Media gives a 4 out of 5, and Metacritic gives it a 72%, which I find to be closer to fair. 72, 75% would be a fair rating. So overall, yeah, pretty good. I want to mention a few things about the film I did not like or found rather odd, almost distracting if anything. Now, before I deliver these observations, just know that I am very well aware that this is not only a movie, but one of the fantasy genre as well. So the suspension of disbelief should be quite high, yet there were some things that bothered me a bit. For instance, the diverse cast is great, not just for skills, but for representation too. However, all the dark-skinned characters seem to be a little bit out of place for a film of this genre and climate. Most fantasy genre films cast mainly white casts due to the time period and climate/environment. Remember Game of Thrones and the casting choices that followed in House of Dragon? So in Game of Thrones, it was mainly a white cast, and then in House of Dragon, you have a plethora of black characters in this prequel, which begs the question, what the hell happened to all the black people between House of Dragon and Game of Thrones? I know those are two different pieces of media, but the point is understood. I got over that very quickly since this is Hollywood and they push their liberal agenda of kumbaya, and for the most part, this is great, and as mentioned earlier, was barely a distraction and something I did notice though. The next and final observation is the reverse roles of men and women. Now remember folks, I grew up watching old, modern, and some recent action movies where all the action and saving was done by the men. However, in this film, it is completely flipped. All the men in this film are completely inept and constantly relying on the women to save them throughout the entire film. If I were to put a percent-wise on this, I would say anywhere between 80 to 90% of the action and saving in this film was done by the women. Now, there's nothing wrong with some switching off, and if you can make it realistic, diversity from time to time in this film is good, but this film completely misses the mark and highlights the women doing all the work throughout the entire film. There's even a scene, and this might be a spoiler, so you have been warned. This is a spoiler warning. If you want to skip, I'm only going to talk about this for 20 seconds. You don't have to log out of the whole video. You can just skip until you're not hearing this. Anyways, Holga visits her ex-husband, who's played by Bradley Cooper, surprisingly. He kind of guest stars in this small scene. He plays a miniature human, a very small human who's about, I'd say, 3 foot tall. She's much larger than him and does all the working and providing for the household. I found that very weird. His new wife is even larger than Holga. She seems to be about 5'10", maybe even 6 foot tall. And again, she mentions how she's doing the work and providing, while Bradley Cooper's character, the miniature human, mentions how he quote-unquote gathered the food for them to eat. Now, we all know traditionally, biologically, and realistically, men hunted and women gathered. I think they did this on purpose to further emphasize the switch on the roles in this movie. All that was very distracting throughout the entire film. To see a small 5'5", 120-pound woman beating up a 6 foot tall man wearing full metal armor from the medieval period is very distracting, and even caused a few sighs to come out of my mouth. I won't rant on this for much longer. That is something that you will notice in the film, and overall, it was a great movie. Totally worth the watch. Full of just tons of cool scenes, like the arena fight near the end, as well as the final battle, which is chock full of great special and practical effects. Overall, it's a great movie. I readily recommend you guys go ahead and watch it. Thank you for watching these videos. I appreciate all of you. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos and like the video if you did. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.